My brothers and sisters, may the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. There is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it is accomplished. Do you think that I've come to establish peace on the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, a household of 5 will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. A father will be divided against his son and a son against his father, a mother against her daughter and a daughter against her mother, a mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. The Gospel of the Lord. As we listen to the remembrances and recollections of Luke of Jesus' ministry, we see today the veil kind of put aside, and for at least a couple of minutes, we see the anxiousness with which Jesus is confronting what he knows he must do. He's doing it out of love, of course, the love which is so over-encompassing that Paul speaks about it today, the length and width and height and depth of what that love is. And the love, of course, leads him ultimately to the cross, and the cross in turn leads ultimately all of us to salvation. And so we see Jesus anxious that this would just get on, that we finally come to fulfillment. We can't just keep going and waiting for this. And yet, of course, it's in God's good time that the moment is to be where the hour will take place for salvation. And we see as well, at least for the early church, a understanding as to why things happened the way they did. You recall the first couple centuries, there were multiple persecutions. And those persecutions sometimes divided households, where some came to belief and therefore gave their life as a result, and others that never accepted the faith to begin with or walked away from it. And so Jesus tells us about the fact that this is the division that comes. That's not the peace that the world sees, but rather a very different kind of peace that he brings. And the peace ultimately is given to those who come to faith. We see, for example, within Paul himself, in the course of his own ministry, this battle going on between the forces of darkness and the forces of light, and how he keeps talking about how he had to undergo this transformation. Here he was, the one who was the great persecutor, who ends up all of a sudden having the conversion experience and receives the grace to move beyond the way he thought before, and all of a sudden become the great herald of the gospel, not just to his fellow Jews, but to the Gentile world at large. He was given the grace to do what he could not have done on his own. And of course, in the course of history, we see that over and over again repeating itself, that Jesus is calling us to salvation through the cross leads to the giving of many graces for people, and many people are able to accomplish things unheard of because of their own talents and gifts, but because of God's grace operative in them, they're able to do that. We celebrate today one of those people, St. Paul of the Cross, the founder of the Passionist community. They're involved very much in a kind of penitential monasticism and in retreat work. He himself lived in the mid-1600s, and he kind of dedicated his life to taking care of the poor and calling people to a new relationship with the Lord. And he saw it all within the context of that same cross that Jesus saw as the means of salvation. Today, then, we're reminded how we ourselves must also carry the cross we have. For some of us, it might be physical. For others, it might be kind of inner turmoil, the things that affect and impact our lives as human beings. But that cross is our share in the mystery of the same love that Jesus brought to us through his dying on that cross so many centuries ago.